last year. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, can you believe it? And we have gotten together 6 or 7 times, and we live in different states. Randi's in Arizona, and Krystal and Melanie and I are in California. And so when Randi was putting this retreat together, and we were kind of present when maybe the seed of inception of this retreat came. So of course my being says, yes, I buy the ticket, and I'm assuming I will be there because it just feels like what I'm meant to do, and I'm part of it, and my heart loves to be open, and so all part of my being wants to do this. However, in my life, I'm dealing with the death of probably the animal I've been the most connected with in my entire life, in a spirit connection. And this little animal, this little cat, is literally dying of cancer. And so I bought the ticket, and I've been trying to stay present with what's happening, and I'm having to hand feed him, and he's starting to shut down, and I'm doing all kinds of things with him and with myself to try to be present, and it's a really beautiful process, and also a really sad process. And so I keep my ego and my mind keep trying to come up with a solution so that I can still fly to Arizona next week and be there. But my heart knows that that's just not what I'm meant to do right now. And so I really, I'm still staying present, and I have up until next Wednesday to cancel my flight. But I just know intuitively that I'm meant to be here, and I'm not going to, rush this process with this being, because if I do that, I'm showing up, and my heart is going to be here worrying about him, even though my son will be here and his girlfriend's going to come, and I'm in my mind, and how I can, I like to fix things and make things work. And so, but this is not a situation to do that with. It's a situation to just slow down and be present, and really intuitively know that this is like the honoring of a beautiful connection, and helping this spirit move on to his highest next existence. And that's really what I'm being called to do. In spirit, I can be there, or maybe I can even zoom in and be there for part of the activities. Yes. And of course you'll catch me up, and then I have a plane ticket, because of course we're going to get together again. We know we will. Right. It's just, but I find myself in that kind of heart, mind, ego, higher self.
And I think that truly is being in that heart, is being in that space of letting it be.
Yeah.
And I think that's just as important as anything else. Like a lot of times, like, this is what I want, this is what I desire, it's going to be so much joy. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's that non-ego space is even completely disconnected from the joy, the pain, all of that. It's just like, this is where I'm in, and I'm just going to let this be until it's time to move to that next phase, which we will be called to. But I think a lot of times we turn to that gentle space of be. And it's really a space to be called to be nothing, but just to be present in whatever the energy is right in that moment, which a lot of times it's an energy of nothingness, and to be okay with that. And that's how we kind of calm all the waters. Wow, this is like good. Okay, so that's how we calm all the waters, so we can actually see clearly, right? Because we're trying to do all this at once and trying to make things happen. It's like we lose that clarity. But if we can just return to that space of stillness, let that be, then I think that allows the universe or the water to reflect back to us who we truly are.
Yeah, because
holy crap, that was the information for the workshop that I hadn't gotten yet. I hadn't gotten that down.
Oh, perfect. And like the death process, I'm actually very comfortable with the death process. I've worked in around people who've died for many years. I was with both my parents, and so I think the emotions I've been having, it's because I was fighting, because I had this other thing I wanted to do. And as soon as I intuitively made the decision, and even emailed you yesterday saying I just don't think that I'm going to be there, I'm still open, but I can just sense it's just not,
Mhm.
it's not meant for me to do. But I do feel calmer. And the process of death, it's a beautiful returning within. I watched, you know, and a lot of the ancient scriptures, and you know, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, they talk about the body and the physical kind of crumbling so the body can't move, and then that you turn within, and then the waters release, and you become incontinent, and the waters release, and that shifts, and then it turns into, the fire is activated, and you know, there's dehydration, or there's all of this, and then it ends up with ether, and it's like, it's this beautiful practice. And if you can be present with death, it's such a beautiful thing. And so I'm just, even now, just realizing that was the turmoil and the emotions I was feeling. It was all around me resisting it.
Yeah, I've been learning about all the different subtle body layers. You know, we have 7 different subtle body layers, and the mental body does seem to be the one that does go back to this realm, and we don't necessarily take it with us. But it is so pervasive, and it is the programs that we're running and the systems. And but we are in this moment, we're the aggregate of all those bodies. And to me, the heart, being such a powerful energy center, is kind of the space where all the bodies are taking their cues from, right? So when we get in our little chaotic mental body, which I picture it sort of out here, just all these little things, and I love the water analogy, we're actually getting cues and distortions from that space when we have access to this really wide, vast array of knowledge through the heart. And I think that's really fascinating. And then when we go through the death process, I think all these other subtle layers, they start to come into singularity. And that would be a really interesting and beautiful process.
Yeah.
But I think the mental part of me is like, well, I don't want to die. Oh my gosh, what is, it's too mysterious. You know, it's like, no, but there's like this really deep, wise inner knowing that we all have. So how do we operate from our heart space more? I feel like that question always comes up, but I know when I'm in my mental body, but it's so pervasive, and it's confusing. Sometimes it's really convincing, and but it doesn't.
It is, and it's I think when we fear, especially, we go to the programmed mind, because we have this sense of security with the program that, okay, well, I was taught that if I do this, that I get this, and that's like simple for us to understand. But when you go to the heart, it's like, you may not get the information of what you're supposed to do until the moment it shows up and you know it. And so it's like, it's this whole new, like, going with this flow. And I think that's our feminine, is moving in the cycles and the flow and the energy. And when we move with that, it's so magical. Whereas if we're like just forcing it, that's when we get stuck, because we can only force so much and so far out, right? And so I think we return to that fear, because it's unknown when you're going with flow. It's more like very being in the moment, and that's very scary for especially analytical people who need a plan, who need organization, who need a knowing. And I mean, we've been on this realm together, these trips together now, so it's like, we know that when we go with flow, it's just magical how things happen. The right people, the right things, these amazing experiences just show up for us, where we literally can't plan it that cool, right?
I know.
So like, we've kind of learned to just the magic in that. But if it's new to you, it can be a really scary place, because it is so unknown, and that's the I think what scares people about it.
It makes me wonder how we got this way in the first place, because you know, with babies and children, they're so open to flow, and they're always following their curiosity and their highest joy, and of course they have their moments of meltdown too, but it's also real and raw. It's like, why over time did we lose that? I mean, because we do need structure. We do need to build buildings and show up for work and be responsible and have some systems.
Or do we?
It's almost like we went too far.
Or is that part of the illusion, that we need to have buildings and systems and structure? I mean, you know, maybe that whole program mind is just to keep our reality in some sort of form. Yes, so you might call that structure, but maybe said we really have maybe taken that too far. And with kids, it's like we start programming now at 4 years old when they start preschool. I told my you guys know Aaliyah. Aaliyah is my son's preschool teacher. I said, you know why I go to your preschool? Because you're not so into structure and it has to be like this. I'm like, she's like, some days we just go and we play outside for 3 hours. I'm like, that's perfect. When it's a fabulous day, I would rather have my son learning outside than stuck in some desk trying to learn a letter. I'm just like, we're training kids right away to not follow their flow, but to follow a program. And so breaking that habit from that whole system is hard.
And just play. I mean, you hardly even hear people use the word, especially even with children, play. I mean, we played when we were little. We went outside, we played. I jumped over the fence and there was piles of wood and springs and things, and it was magical. And that's what allowed my mind to start seeing things in different ways and to become curious. And I wasn't taught how to create things out of material. No one taught me. It came from play and wonder and experimentation and all of that. And even play now is so organized and scheduled and structured, and
it's so true.
I mean, my daughter's first preschool that we took her to, they'd write and they'd say, Jessie did great today. She lined up, 20 bears by color and rows. And I'm like, what the F is that? Like, I don't want her lining up bears with colors and rows. I want her playing and exploring. And, it's interesting. And I love to see people just, free form. Like when we got together in Tahoe, we just played. I mean, we had some activities that kind of mingled in there or came in there, but it was really just really being in the moment and play and magic and wonder. And
you naturally have such a gift for that, Christina. Like I'm so glad you have that creative side, because I've kind of shut that down so much in my life, and so being in your energy, like I want to play more, I want to create, I want to enter back into these untapped realms of my non-ego mind, of my heart center of creating and and try things, because we get stuck in the program and we forget that we love to play and dance and sing and whatever it is,
But there's certainly still kind of a shadow side of that frequency. I mean, when you hang around people that are a little bit too much that way, I mean, they're not reliable, they're not really getting things done, they aren't creating systems that are beyond themselves. It does seem like there's definitely a balance. And I think some people like to line things up and they like math. It's like amazing, like math. Right?
There's a place for all of it, for sure. I mean, there's a place for all of it. And I think it's really about knowing again, it comes back to the heart and what calls to you. If that lights up your world and you love to do that, great. And I mean, but I think there's a perfect balance in if there were no, like Randi posed the question, if there were no imposed structure or organization, would, in a symbiotic, beautiful way, a balance be created just by people being who they are? They are, and I believe it would. I believe that, you hear different theories like the Ubuntu society, the Ubuntu movement, and Michael Tellinger, and like I hear people say, well, nobody would want to collect the garbage. I mean, people wouldn't work. They wouldn't do anything. But I think they would. I think if you had a lot of your needs met and you didn't have to survive and work so hard to survive, you would tap into your abilities more so, and there probably would be some sort of a balance, a natural balance.
Yeah, it's surrendering into that divine order, because this world, this reality, this plane is made up of geometry at plus time and space, and then it always expresses in this beautiful divine order. So I think what we're suggesting here is when we operate from the heart, we're letting divinity express. And so those people that are into math and science and linear thinking, as long as they're surrendering to their heart, they're actually going to be playing a really key role in that divine order.
Absolutely.
So it's a surrender. Yeah.
I think and that comes to your own be, like, who am I? What do I love doing? What, it's because I looked at this with planning my workshop, but when I've done them in the past, it's like I had this belief that it had to look like this and this and this, and I had to be responsible for everything, and make sure everybody had a great experience. And that's when I got overwhelmed, and like I'd have to come home and like sleep for 5 days after just to recuperate from all the energy spent. Right. And I started looking at this pattern and talking to my heart and said, I love doing it, but it's too much work. And then so when I went to my heart, it said, well, then be more creative with it and do it in a way that doesn't drain you. And I was like, oh, I hadn't considered that possibility. Right. So I started thinking, well, what parts drain me? Well, I was doing all the food and thinking I had to have all these crafty things and all this stuff. And it's like, that's the part that was like overwhelming to me. The part of being present in the moment and like speaking and communicating and reaching at people, I'm good at that. I'm not, the other stuff is a bit much for me. So in this one, I just said, okay, who would like to do food? And everybody volunteered to do food. I have no food to worry about at all. Someone else is making these cool, I don't even know what they'll be yet. I get to be as excited as everybody else when I see them. She's making some sort of gift for everyone that's connected to our theme. Other people are planning their little things. I literally just get to show up and be present and experience it as joyfully as everybody else there. And so it's like I've shifted everything I didn't love and made something that I literally am so excited for.
You have a cacao ceremony I saw this morning. And the other thing is like when each person is responsible, like I prefer to bring my food because it's just easier for me. As you know, I just bring my stuff, then I don't have to think, I don't have to worry about it. No worry has to go into it. And so if we bring, you bring your plate and your fork and you bring your towel and you bring your sleeping bag and like done. Nobody has to, there's no stress for anybody. It's shared. And then people also feel like they're contributing, and it's really a win-win. It's a beautiful way to do things.
I didn't even have to pay for the cabin. Someone just donated the cabin for us, So it's like everything used to be stressful about it is gone.
Yeah.
But the same thing will be created in a beautiful, harmonious way.
That's why I love hanging out with you guys, because we are operating in our heart space. So when we all get together and the women that you're going to meet with, it's like, it's just clicks and everything falls into place. It's so cool. It's not always that way in the rest of the world, but like when I planned the Tahoe trip, I just made sure we had a space, and I was like, food, activities, it'll work out. And it totally did. But I think it's because we're really good at operating in our heart space. So we got to get more of the rest of the world on board with that. Because imagine showing up to work every day and you're like, okay, well, let's take a moment. Like, what are we all feeling inspired? And I think collectively there will be this divine inspiration and we'll all kind of be on board with it. But if the world doesn't really operate that way right now. So I think we're
even in any job, even in an office job. So, it's like my husband working in finance still in his, day-to-day work. He's like, I've done, and I've shifted it to where I decide, well, what kind of clients do I want to have? Do I want to have people that stress me out, that I can't get their deals closed, that it's a pain in the butt? Or do I just want to intend that I have the clients that everything flows smoothly, it all goes perfectly, I make a lot of money, and then it frees me up my time, so then I can spend doing more of my time with what I really want to do. So that's how you don't necessarily have to like leave everything you're doing to play in this space, but just start using you're already what you're doing, do it a little differently to where it honors you a little bit more all the time. Kind of like Christina did with her work, and she said, it's time for me to go on my own. So it's like, then she has freedom, isn't working for somebody else. It kind of can be more creative with their clients even.
Yeah. There's a flow. There's a flexibility and a flow. There was a little fear initially, but I think it comes down to then I just trust. Like I trust the universe has my back. I don't have to worry about getting clientele. It just happens. I don't.
And you did that too, Melanie. You remember that?
When
you did that same thing too. Job. You created this amazing job.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say, because I'm pretty good at being, the butterfly and operating on my intuition, and it was a little bit difficult for me as an entrepreneur. So I had to create a space, a window of time every day, which for most people, maybe that's normal. But for me, I'm like, okay, I'm so disciplined. From these hours, I really, really focus. And so that's been really good for me. But as life's kind of unfolding, stuff's coming up, and I'm not always in that window. But I have like very little supervision with my job. And so my boss is very trusting, and I really like my job and I want to keep it. So what I keep doing is just kind of connecting with my heart space and thinking like, how do I serve this person that believes in me and he's giving me money? And so I think, you know, we can lie with our lips, but we can't necessarily with our heart. So as long as I keep my heart in the right place and make sure that like I'm in alignment and like I know I'm proud of myself and the work I'm doing, it doesn't necessarily have to fit in that window of time anymore. I just know my intentions are pure, and I know I have to get certain things done. So that's kind of one way I'm operating from my heart space, as opposed to when I created this structure, which was probably based on the ego mind, which did help me at that time. But now it's just like, no, my heart is in the right place. And this does feel like an even exchange. So I think he feels that. I mean, even if he's not here or we're not talking about it, I do think people can feel when we're operating from our heart space and trying to do the right thing by others. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
And I think that it works. Somehow it works.
Yes.
Somehow this harmony is, if everybody, this is the vision I got, if everybody would return to their heart space and create from that, there would naturally be harmony, because our heart is where all of the energies in our body are harmonized. You're not in our heart wall, not in all the outside stuff, but truly deeply in there, everything is harmonious. So when we create from that space, it's naturally in harmony with everyone's creation. And I was saying, if my inner love is if my inner connection is to my joy, like that's what really makes my heart sing, is when I feel joy. And so maybe someone else, it's love. But see, those two are harmonious together. If someone else is in peace, that's harmonious with it. And so all of those things, when we really reach our core, are naturally in harmony with everyone else. And so we don't have to force it to happen. It just naturally will be a beautiful experience for everyone involved or connected to it.
Yeah, and it's tricky sometimes, because I still like, there are certain mornings where my highest bliss is to have coffee with a friend, and I don't necessarily want to get started, you know, till 11 or something. And if I'm kind of following that flow, then I do have this like intuitive push to like, hey, you're a little bit out of alignment. But it's, yeah, again, it's not really linear, and it's not really lined up with the old 9 to 5 thing. But I've got to work with other people that are operating that way. So that's kind of the challenge for me. And I think a lot of us that are kind of on the spiritual path, eventually we want to get to that point where we are just free flowing, heart totally open, working hard, but it's all in this like harmonious dance that we can't even really measure. It's kind of just, I just picture a flower blooming, you know, that's just sort of what happens. We can't structure it and come up with a formula. That's way too divine and way too beyond us. We just have to allow. So I'd love to operate more that way with my job. Maybe I can teach my boss about some of these things. And
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think some people are like the rocks in the river, and other people are like the water. And you know, even as the river flows along the rocks, it just goes around them and does its thing and creates a beautiful ripple as it goes. So I think all of it is part of the beauty of it, you know. And when the river is strong, it might force the rocks to move a little bit. And I think my husband is kind of my rock. And I never thought of this. My husband, he really is. He's kind of that rock. And sometimes I'm like, come on, hun, go with the flow a little bit. But what I love is his stability, you know, and that his strength. And so there is beauty in all aspects of us, because his flow isn't much of a flow. It's more of a stillness. But sometimes we need that stillness, that still energy to reflect back to us and give us a new perspective as well. So maybe it's all perfect.
If you're trying to cross the stream, you appreciate having a rock to step on, or if you like the picture that I had done of your kids during a meditation I had. I saw Randi's kids as elements, and one son was this powerful tree, and one was the gossamer that kind of decorated it, and two were anchors and rocks. And
I have the picture on hand right now to show.
Just interesting. But yeah, it's just, you know, there's no hierarchy of anything. It's just and you may shift. Like I think we might want to play and be different things. Like I'm practicing more going with the flow, whereas in the past I might have been more that rock or anchor or support, but now I'm getting to maybe be a little more watery and flowing a little bit more, which was a little it's just fun. Go ahead.
There's such thing as stagnant water. So we do get to a point sometimes where we're like, this is not in alignment, and that's when disease and things proliferate. And I think that's probably where a lot of our collective is right now, just stuck in this stagnant like 9 to 5 routine, and we wonder why there's all this alcoholism and depression and stuff. And I think
That's true. Every river, every lake, everything needs a little bit of flow, or it does become stagnant and dirty. So that's a really good point of how that harmonious balance happens in there, but even the still water is still moving, right? And I think even just appreciating and honoring everybody's space instead of thinking that people need to be like us. And this is something I'm learning with my husband. It's like, I am such in flow and he is so the opposite. And we had this conversation. I'm like, we really are a perfect match because we really harmonize each other. And then I'm like, we have friction, but we're a really good match. And then him, it's like, well, what does a match need to light? It needs friction, right?
Yeah.
That's what it has. So sometimes the friction is perfect as well. And so just allowing it all to be, I think, is the key. I don't know. It's like a rhyme. Allowing it all to be is the key.
It's the key. But that's how you learn. You learn from watching and admiring and watching the qualities in others that like maybe I am lacking in. And I think I had astrology charts done since I was in my early 20s, and a couple people would say, oh wow, you have like no water in your chart. Wow, that's very interesting. You're all earth, air, and fire. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't quite get what that meant. But a lot of the activities I do are spiritual in nature and water in nature. So it's been many years of learning about the waters. And it's like, if I could live in an ideal place, it wouldn't be the ocean, it would be the mountains and with big trees and all of that. But it's interesting because I'm here I am in my bathtub. Like I love sitting in water. I love sitting in water, and I'm learning how to do that. But it wasn't like it wasn't natural, a natural feeling for me. So it's interesting, but I've learned that through observing others, and those are the things that I've admired in people. Like, wow, look how free that person is, and they just really go with the flow. I love that.
I love that too, until I spent time with people that do it a little too much, and then their lives sometimes fall apart. I want to go back to the heart versus mind a little bit, because as humans, we get in our minds a lot. And one of the things that's hard for me still is this people-pleasing program thing. So sometimes I go within my heart and I start to really feel what my truth is. And then I can see clearly how I'm out of alignment in some areas. But that people-pleasing thing, I swear it keeps me back, because it's really hard to communicate certain truths sometimes, and I don't even always have the language for it. But I know when it's from my heart space, it's usually received properly, right? Or maybe always, I don't know. But that's been a challenge for me, because I still play out some people-pleasing mind programs, and I'm not necessarily honoring my heart. I guess it just doesn't feel good when you feel like people don't like you, or, so how do you overcome the people-pleasing program?
Would you like me to share?
Yeah,
I've gotten pretty good at that.
A fellow ex-Mormon, you probably have that same program.
I just don't give a fuck anymore. Let's go.
There's one way. One way to do it.
I just get to that point. It's like, I've just come to a space where I honor me first.
Yeah.
And it sounds selfish, but it's not. Because if you put anyone above yourself, you end up being drained. Yeah. And you end up sucking energy. But if I put me first, and my healing first, and my heart first, then it fills me. I'm filled with that. Really, that connects me back to my source of my power, and when I am, that's when I have ability to give. That's when I have ability to stay strong with people that come at me with their programs, because I see them just as their programs now. I don't see it as, oh, well, not always. I'm not perfect at this. I'm still practicing like everybody else, but I see them as, okay, not maybe some people got it 100%. I haven't got it 100%, but I'm practicing it. But I see that, okay, this is their programs coming at me. I can choose to be defensive, get upset, or just realize they're still playing in their program, and that's okay. There was a time I was too. Maybe their program is their bitchiness, right? And it's like, I know you have this a bit with your situation. So it's like, they come at you with that. What can you do? You can't be bitchy back, because that's really probably what will please them more than you just being nice. And it's like, you don't have to be nice, just be you. Be strong in who you are. Be strong in what your heart's telling you. Be strong in not letting people walk over you. And that's how you show them you're not going to put up with that crap, because you love yourself enough that you're not going to put up with that. You know, and they're not going to change your belief system if it's like a religion thing. If you say, you know what, I'm done with this. I've learned more, moving to a higher path or whatever it is for you, you know, then people try to bring you down back to their level, then it's only hurting you. And you can't say, no, I'm going back there. I had a client, we talked about this yesterday with, and we compared it to like a butterfly. I said, you're in like your chrysalis right now. And I said, this is your time before your compression breakthrough where you're ready to fly. And I said, are you going to let these other people that you connect with, this was her family in the case, bring you back down to being a caterpillar? Because they're caterpillars and they don't realize they can fly yet. So they're saying something's wrong with you. You're sitting here in this dark spot in this thing. We told you you'd get stuck in there. They don't know that she's ready to be burst out and be a butterfly. They think something's wrong because she can't move because they're all caterpillars. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where it's like, just stay in that space of being who you are. And that's when your wings will open. That's when you're released to fly. And at that point, people can't try to bring you back down again. And you really, truly have to honor yourself first. And it's not selfish. It's how it needs to be. That's the way we grow.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered the question or not.
No,
but I think
it did. So do you think the mind it's part of the program? Okay, so the soul comes into the body and then we develop this physical body and then all these other subtle layers. Like the mind is finite. I think the heart has the information, all information, right? Because it's connected to the all that is. So it's not that the mind ever dies, but the mind that exists, it's intended to be separate, right? It's intended to give us this illusion of separation. Is that part of this game we created for ourselves, for our soul's expansion? So really, it's playing and doing what it's supposed to do, which is kind of this dance with the ego, which is finite.
I think we talked about this a little bit in the singularity video. It's if you didn't have the ego, or, you know, not that the mind is the ego, but if you didn't have that perspective outside of whole oneness, you wouldn't be able to see yourself. You wouldn't be able to reflect and see and learn. And I think it's kind of the alter ego, or it's a way to observe and learn and grow, and a tool. It's just a tool.
And again, there really is no separation. We are the finite. We are also the infinite. We are the infinite in finite. It's all one and the same, right? So we perceive this finite experience, but it's also absolutely part of our infinite experience. And so we're just...
Yeah, we have to see it for what it is. So there's this finite ego version of us that has a program that's running, that we pretty much were running unconsciously with until we awaken, which is what we're doing now. So then again, we have to tap our awareness, which has been, all of the above has been here all along. It's just our awareness that's coming along, right? So now we can go back into the awareness of our heart and operate from there instead of letting the mind just run.
I call that returning to the heart. So, you know, we're up here, when we're told to bow our heads to pray, originally it meant because you were connecting your mind to your heart. And you were bridging that gap. Maybe that's your rainbow bridge, connecting the mind to the heart. I don't know, but that's something to consider. That's the bridge. And as we bridge that gap, we're able to go within and connect truly within to our source, to that 0 point within us, which is our true energy source. And so, you know, that's what we're doing when we return to our hearts.
Yeah. And then to expand our heart, or to expand our awareness of our heart, is that when we have to like let go of programs? We have to start seeing programs, like, because I noticed my heart is expanding, especially in the last few years. And I've been doing a lot of things, I think, to get there. I mean, I'm drinking better water. I'm like blessing water before I drink it. I'm catching myself when I have thoughts about someone or something or myself that are negative, that are not necessarily things I want to give energy to. So like I'm finding my thoughts are trying to keep them sacred. You know, is that how we do this? Is that how we connect more to our heart? I don't know that I have one thing that's like and I love when I feel love, right? Don't you love it when you can literally feel your heart and it's just like so expanded? And then sometimes I just want to cry, and I don't know if that I could always operate that way, because it'd be really hard to focus, because sometimes the feeling is so deep, right? But
well, I think don't try to define it so much.
Yeah.
The heart is just the bee. Who are you? You are sad sometimes. You are upset sometimes. You are, and it's like we think that, oh, to be good enough to be in the heart, I've got to let go of all this or do that. No.
Right, yeah.
It's already who you are.
Not
It's
one
the
formula.
crazy, fucked up side of us, and the gentle, loving side of us, and the dynamite fierceness of us. And it's all of those things are who we are. To say any part of that is bad is truly losing a part of ourselves. Every part of that is who we are. Honor that. That doesn't mean we're not continually healing ourselves, making ourselves better versions of ourselves, but we're not necessarily getting rid of the old versions of ourselves. We're just transforming them. Just like, I mean, even like the butterfly. The butterfly is still the same energy that it was when it was the caterpillar. It's just a new expression now, a new vibratory expression of that same energy. So, you know, sometimes there's going to be a space where you still will need your anger. And it may not express as anger, but just as a firmness of, no, we're not crossing this line. But it's really the same energy, just serving in a more appropriate way, a more harmonious way. But that energy is there as your support. It's not bad. And that's where I think it's just about harmonizing it all. Because when you're in harmony with all the energies, you naturally aren't going to strike out in anger or kill somebody, because your love and your compassion and your gentleness are in harmony with that. So that naturally harmonizes that part that would be angry. And you might move forward in compassion first, after you think of it in awareness. But still, that anger is that trigger to say to us, this isn't right. I'm going to change something about this in one way or another. It might be to lash out. It might be to return to more gentle approach. But either way, we need that trigger there for us to allow us to say something's not right. There's not justice being served. You know, children being raped is not okay anymore.
Right.
I can be really angry about this, or I can love fiercely. And I can say, no children will be that way. That doesn't make me a bad person. That doesn't make me, that makes me who I am and my strength and my power. And so don't feel like you have to shut off versions of yourself like they're not appropriate, because sometimes they are.
Yeah.
And that's where we kind of get into the cycle of being good enough. Well, when I've let go of all negative emotions and I'm never triggered again, that's when I'm reached perfection. No, you're perfect now. Yeah. Period. And you're be right now. You're perfect. Be you.
So anger is a divine expression, and it's there to protect us. But I do see fear as a contraction, and I do see fear as a form of barriers. I don't know. And you know, words are just words. We're trying to describe this huge mountain of knowledge. So fear to me is contraction. Okay. So with that said,
if you're in a space where there's a rapist, let's say, you have this sense of fear, something saying to you, leave, don't be here. You feel it in your gut. See how that then becomes a guide for us and a protection, not a negative. So if we're afraid to move forward in our life, if fear is our guiding force because it's not in harmony with everything else, you know, fear and harmony would be very minimal. You wouldn't rarely ever feel it or notice it. But in the moment that you need it, it's there for you because you haven't shunned it as bad or evil. You've just allowed it to be naturally harmonious in your expression of you.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out what are the barriers then? Because, okay, if we're all this bright sun, say each of us are a bright sun because our heart is connected to the all that is. So in a sense, we are these magnificent light beings, every single one of us. And the only thing that's dimming our frequency or that bright light is these barriers, right? And I see what you mean about how anger and fear, these are expressions. This is source seeking to express itself through us. And you know, we could go into these different expressions of that, which they could be positive or negative, depending upon how you look at it. But what are the barriers to us really expressing and shining as brightly as we can? Because like, yeah, it's not about like positive or negative emotions. What is it that's holding us back from being the brightest light that we can be?
I think it's not having the harmony with the emotions. If you're leading your life from fear, there's not a lot of harmony going on within you. I rarely experience fear now about things I'm doing. I notice it every night. It's like, oh, there's that fear creeping in.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells me to look deeper. What is it that I'm still believing that I'm not trusting this flow or whatever it is? So it comes in as like a guide now versus like a blockage, right? And fear can just kind of guide us in the right direction. So we just kind of like, oh, I feel like I need to go this way, you know, and maybe we don't even realize it's fear, but it's so gentle because it's so harmonious with, okay, I'd like to create a safe space. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's our goal, create a safe space for our family. We're going to naturally, if we come to a place, you might come to a home that says, oh, I just don't feel right about this. We might not even identify it as fear, but we might feel a slight fear in that space where we go to the next space, like, oh, this one's perfect. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like, so it becomes just a gentle guide for us instead of like damming our energy. So mm-hmm. fear can go right along with flow. It doesn't have to be a dam. It can just be a little rock that we scoot around or whatever. I don't know. I'm trying to make these analogies here, but but the idea is we're going to have all those emotions, and to say that you're not enlightened or whatever if you still have fear, I don't necessarily buy into that belief. Maybe that's true. I don't know, but I don't feel
it feels so much more balanced when you just honor and acknowledge when it arises. And I didn't express anger for many years because it wasn't nice or it wasn't good, and it stifles it. It suppresses a part of you, and it took really a long time for me to be okay with like saying, you know, really firmly standing up for something or cussing or all of that. And it's just energy wanting to express, and it can protect or it can stop. It's the ultimate form of self-love when you're saying, you know, no, you're not going to do that to me anymore. And mm-hmm. and our being, I think, loves that we've learned that and integrated that. And you don't want to live in it, but it's really like we talked about the flow of the water, and we had windstorms and all kinds of stuff going on here over the past month, and it's a little scary. It's very loud. Things are crashing against the roof. I thought my umbrella blew over, and I just remember falling asleep. My faith is stronger than my fear. My faith is stronger than my fear. And it just, you know, immediately I kind of just went to sleep and let go of that, because the mind can kick in, and you can go down the what if, but it was just a good reminder to just witness it and not be so triggered by it.
Yeah. So as we become aware of what our mind was doing and we start to reel it in, what does it really look like living in your heart space? Like, what does that feel like? I mean, I have moments, and I like to think that's the path I'm on. But operating that way every day with everyone you meet, and also, what kind of information do we have? Do we have access to unlimited information when we're in our heart space? Like, can we start tapping into all kinds of other realms and frequencies? And are we just basically now the orchestra or the conductor of our experience? We're just sort of picking our experiences, and we're creating this beautiful life expression. What's the goal here? That's what I think it is.
I think yes to everything you just said. Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to have like infinite knowledge. So if it means going into my heart space more, which that's when I do seem to get my most clarity. Like, I love that. I'm on that path.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's what it is. And you feel everything shift.
Yeah.
You really do. And I've felt it so powerfully just the last like 2 weeks that it's just like magical. And I told him, like, magic is coming back. I feel the magic of it. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I know that the whole universe literally is conspiring for me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's that magic. And it's like, it wants this heart expression to become the new template for this reality, because it knows that that's what will bring us harmony. So that's why I say that's my call now, to get myself first, but to share this idea with everyone. Even you came up with this today. It's really so much in the ether right now. This message coming through. It's time to return to the heart. It's time to return the heart. If humanity wants to succeed, they've got to return to the heart. If not, it'll be destructive.
Yeah. And it's so lovely too, as I'm operating more in my heart and just like meeting people. I love meeting strangers because I can just feel so much love for them. I don't have all the judgment, you know, I can just feel all this love. And then I also think because it's a lot of information, you do pick up some of their shadows too. You pick up the shadows and all the good things. It's fascinating because you can kind of know someone deeply, but you really, really love them deeply.
I was talking with one of the clients today, and he's this super awesome guy. He's gay, and he was raised Mormon. Well, I don't know if he's raised Mormon, but he's raised in Utah. But so anyways, there's a lot of stuff that he was dealing with, you know, and we're talking about love, and he's talking about trying to reconnect with it. And I said, you know, it's all about being in love. I said, I'm right now in this space in love with you because I'm in love and you're in love, and we're sharing a space of love together. And in that space, there is no judgment. I mean, we're literally talking about everything you would normally judge a person on, and he's sharing because he feels safe in love. Yeah. And that's when we can all heal, when we're in love. And that's why I don't set limits on what love has to look like. And my husband and I, we have very open expression of love even in our marriage, because we want to always be in love wherever we are. It's a vibratory frequency. It's not something we have only with a certain person. Where if you're in love, you are literally always in the energy of love. And so you can only connect to other people in that space of love. You bring them right into your love, which of course you're not judging them in that space. You might feel them, you might feel some of their pains, but you love them in that space. And that's that unconditional love, because it's just a natural state of being at that point.
And that's how we can create continual divine experiences too. It's not because the world's all perfect and sunshine and rainbows. It's like, but when we operate in love, we interact with others, and now we interact with their aspect of love. And then we create that environment where we're almost like pulling that out of them, because that's the frequency we're putting out there. Because most of my experiences are really great, you know, really wonderful. Especially
why can't our world be sunshine and rainbows?
And it can, I think
something has to express. Why not that be what leads and what expresses more prominently?
So you feel it when you're in it, and that is your world.
Yeah.
I think in that space, I do feel like my world is sunshine and rainbows. You know, I really do.
I love how others feel that when they're around us. Like, that's such a cool gift to be able to bring love and sunshine wherever you go.
And I think that, again, is that power to heal this planet.
Yeah.
We've seen it in our own lives. Now it's that energy spreading. It's like we're the kindling for that. That friction lights the match. We've had a lot of friction here. The match has been lit. Now it needs to burn. It needs to light kindling that people that are in that heart space, and that's what will spread, is that returning to that heart space. And as that spreads through the planet, we completely shift all reality, but it's got to start in here first.
Yeah, I'm always trying to think of like the practical things we could do, but consuming information like this, taking care of your body, all these things we can do to invite more love into our experience.
And you can just be.
Be.
Like literally your be love. When you be love, you'll show up, and everything you do is love. You don't have to judge if it's love or not, because it's already who you are.
It just is.
It just is, yeah. A love wouldn't guide you to just sit there and do nothing, right? When you're filled with love, I literally have to express it, or I would like blow up inside. Like that's how powerful it can be. When I'm full of joy, I have to share it. I'm going to be out there doing something to share it, connecting with someone to share it, because I literally can't contain it in this human vessel. It has to expand and grow and spread, and that's my natural state of being when I'm in that vibration. Now, when I'm sad or depressed or down, that's where I retreat back. That's when I'm more likely to not do anything, is when we're feeling weak and depressed, and that's when our energy is contracted, right? But sometimes we need that contraction to look within.
It's honoring. It's like when an animal's hurt, or you protect the underbelly. You pull. The turtle pulls within, and there's a natural cycle with all of it. And, you know, that just, like I said, just having the peace to know that that's where I am right now and to just honor that, then I feel calmer. I feel calmer. And then I can feel the love of just holding the food up to my little cat as it licks his little tongue licks the food. And, you know, who knows how many breaths or how many, you know, days he has left. I don't know, but I'm just witnessing, and it's very sweet, and it's actually very sweet and loving, and I'm so grateful because I feel like even just the last day or two, I'm not fighting it, and that feels so nice. And
I feel like you guys operate in love so well, and I think some of the reasons I went into some shadows with some of my life choices and experiences was so I could really appreciate and love like all the things that I've had and that I'm going to continue to create. I see you guys both have plants in the background. Even with plants, it's like, I think of all the years where I let my house plants die, you know, it's just like, where was my love? How did I not care? You know, but I'm really grateful for the experiences where those things did die, or I had to go into some pretty dark things so that I can be like, oh my gosh, I was really ungrateful. Now I'm cultivating love, and I'm doing it much more consciously because it's reflected.
And it's a practice. It wasn't natural for me. I would have naturally been more angry than joyful. And at least that's how I felt I expressed. And so it literally became my practice because I remembered that I was joy. I remembered that my heart wanted joy. And so I said, how do I reconnect with that? Well, I had to look at my life, and from a new awareness, it's like, why am I creating things why am I choosing to be angry about this? And I really had to look at that, and going from those programs, like, you know, I grew up in a family with lots of anger, and we reacted to each other in anger. I didn't even know that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
You know, that I thought, because I consider myself to come up in a loving family, and I still love my family so much. And there was a lot of love, but there was a lot of anger too. And so I just had to notice that and bring that anger into harmony with my love, you know? Yeah. And so in doing that, as I just looked at that, and it's just from a new awareness that says, yeah, I might be angry, but I'm also joy. I'm also love. So I just harmonize all of those into me. And then once I do, then you become authentic you, I think.
Yeah, loving yourself and all the expressions and emotions and experiences, like that expands your heart.
Well, did you guys see like the new Maleficent movie?
No, I didn't yet. But
oh my gosh, go see it. Okay. Yeah. So Angelina Jolie, her character in that is just amazing. She does a fabulous job with it. But she's like this fierce, intense, like fucked up fairy energy, really. You know, that's like her energy. But oh my gosh, I love her character because she's just so confident and strong in who she is. And it's not a hateful, it's not a vengeful, it's powerful. She's a protector of the innocents, you know, and that's what she does. And to do that, she has to be fierce. Yeah. And she stands up. Does that mean anything's wrong with her? No. She's not a happy little fairy dusting on. That's not her, right? She is a fierce protector of the innocents. And she awoken to that by her connection with Aurora in the first one. And so we, you know, it's like, to open our minds to what authentic looks like. We truly love people who are authentic. We don't necessarily love people who are just like pretending to be spiritual, or like, oh, I meditate 6 times a day, so I'm spiritual. But like, they're not even fun usually. Like, they're not people you want to hang out with. It's like, okay, that's cool for like a weekend, but now I'm kind of bored, so let's go do something more fun. Like, that would be my personal hell if I had to like pick where I was going to live, and it's like, you're just going to meditate for every day for 7 hours. And really, like, okay, I can do that for like 2 days, maybe, but then I want to play and sing and dance. And so, and I'm, you know, energetic. And so it's like, we have to honor that about ourselves, because we're not authentic. People want to be around us, not when we're like pretending to be spiritual or pretending to be all these things because we've been told, well, this is what spiritual is.
Right.
Am I spiritual? This is spiritual for me, just to be me. That's how I connect to my power.
Let's wrap it up pretty soon. I'll do some final thoughts, and then Randi, and then Christina.
Okay.
One thing that didn't really come up was how I feel like love is expanded and the heart is expanded through it. I know this is my thing. It's not, maybe not necessarily everybody's, but well, it should be everybody's, but just expressing through my physical body and just expressing, dancing a lot, moving, stretching. Like, I'm not embarrassed when I go and put gas in the car. I now do like stretches, and just because my body's like, I'm listening to it. It's constantly telling me, hey, you got like pent up energy, especially my neck, you know, with my job and everything. And so moving my body, I swear that's helped me access my heart more, because I think it does get trapped up in the physical body too. So that's just a reminder to move our physical body. I think that helps us.
Absolutely. That's that's great, because that truly, that opens your flow. If you're stiff and contracted and whatever, you're not in flow. So moving, that's why we have flow yoga. The whole point is to open up that flow. Dancing is a fabulous way to open up that flow. So I would say my final thoughts is be authentic to yourself. If you like numbers and computers, and do that, but then be willing to just move a little into other things. That's where we kind of are forced to move into this electronic world, even though it's not my natural love. We learn how to work with it and make it work for us, right? So I think all of that in life, and just being okay with moving and experiencing and growing, that's all part of that flow. And in that is your joy. Just do it all in a way that brings you joy. If you find yourself being drained, you're going to work every day and you just feel like you're exhausted, then that's where it's time to look deeper in that heart and say, okay, why is this job, this work I'm doing not honor me? Is there a way I can shift it so I can honor me? Or is it something that I truly need to just step away from to honor me? And then just ask yourself those harder, deeper questions. And when you honor you, the universe will also honor you. So you will be given the power and the strength to shift in any way now it's a space where it can feed you, fuel your soul instead of deplete you. And that's returning to that 0 point energy, which is what we have to do as a planetary consciousness. And then we will basically return our everlasting life. So.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah. And I just find like at this time where I am more indrawn, and I'm at home more, because I really literally need to be here 4 or 5 times a day to feed the cat, because he only will eat out of my hand. Sean can kind of do it, but it's been very sweet, because I'm actually loving that it's getting dark at 5 o'clock, because it feels cozy and warm, and I have automatic candles now in my fireplace that I never use that go on, and it feels cozy, and I'm just creating things, because as you know, I love to make things, and so I'm just playing with that, and it just brings me a lot of joy and peace, and so I can listen to whatever video or music and just create and just be kind of more quiet and not overbook myself, which is this time of the year we can tend to do, overbook and do so many holiday things. So it's been really sweet to actually have that quiet time.
That's
cozy, warm time.
Flow. You're in a gentle flow right now.
Gentle, exactly. That's what it feels like, yeah.
That's perfect for you at this time. Awesome. Yeah, I love the reminder just to slow down and to be in silence, and everything opens up when we do that. So, all right.
All right. Love you, girls. Love you all.